In this video, we're going to look at the work that we did in the cab area. As you can kind of tell from the angle right now, I'm standing up inside the coach area looking down into the cab. This particular model, of course, is a basement model, so it's a pretty good step up. As you can see, if you look right here, down to there is about a foot, so it's a pretty good step up. So it looks kind of high up here. But anyway, let's just look at some of the things that take place in the cab. First thing I wanted to show you here, before we get to the floor and some stuff, is the work that we did on the dog house. Now, we can look right here, if we see this right here, that's not the original. The original, if you know these 97s, actually is pretty useless. And what that is that actually just snaps onto. If you look over here and you see the real dog house, which is a big fiberglass piece, if I can get my fingers to it, right around through here, and then this, there's just a little snap underneath. This snaps off and on. This came out of a 2007 450, and so the nice thing about this, of course, it has a little better, have some better compartments in it, and of course the big thing are the drink trays. So I picked that up off of eBay. I think I paid about 50 bucks for that. The other major thing that I did to the doghouse was it was pretty beat up. So if you saw the video that I did, which covered the cab and some of the materials I used as far as painting in it, you know that I painted the doghouse with this interior product that you can get at the auto paint stores called SEM, and it actually is in a graphite gray. Worked great. Of course, if you saw it, go back and look at that video, you saw that we used the Bulldog adhesive. So the entire doghouse was sprayed on the outside. And I'll take some video from inside the doors to get a better look at it at a side angle right there. The other thing that I did in the doghouse is when I had it off, is on the inside of the doghouse, there is an insulation and then a foil product where they try to, heat insulate the thing, heat insulate the doghouse. So what I did was I added another layer of insulation, and then I bought these big, well, I guess they're 8 by 10, but I think they're a little bit bigger, pieces of sticky foam or sticky foil, applied that to those, and I bought this 2-inch wide just foil tape that you can get Home Depot everywhere, and then cleaned everything up and actually added another layer onto the back of the doghouse, and it actually works pretty well. At the engine at full temperature, that doghouse is really just barely warm whatsoever. So did all the work on the doghouse. Turned out pretty nice. I was pretty happy with it. The other thing we can look at straight here, if you look down, of course it's a black, I'll try to drop down here in a second and show you, is the flooring. Now in this particular RV, as I spoke earlier, this was all blue shag carpet when it was originally done, and some of these videos are a little dark. If you can see, you can almost make the outline. I'll show you when I get down and look through the doors. There's the original blue Fleetwood floor mats. This was all a blue shag carpet. Of course, the blue shag carpet came up and over here and then went on through the coach. I decided to go this is a product by ACC, which is a molded vinyl floor product. The main reason I went with it, number one, was that when you go and look at brand new 2011 RVs or brand new RVs, this is never carpet anymore. This is always vinyl up here. So I wanted, number one, just to kind of go with what's a modern style in RVs. And then, of course, number two, they do it because it's so easy. I mean, the carpet that was in here the carpet in the coach was looking pretty good, but the carpet in the cab was really, really ratty. It was looking pretty bad. Of course, it's just a blue residential shag carpet. And so, bought this. This is a custom molded. It's fairly flat. I'll show you when I look at the other video better. You can see right over in here, there's the humps for the wheel wells. And that's one place that it is molded. Other than that, it's reasonably flat. And so to put this product in, it's pretty simple. It's really oversized. So when you get it, it really is probably a foot larger than the area that you see right here. And you've got to cut it down. And so you've got to trim it down. So that's a little tedious. You've got to make sure you get it exactly where you want it inside the coach or inside the cab, oversized. And then from there, you have to start the trimming process. And it's really pretty simple but tedious. You've got to trim, check, trim, fit, trim, fit, trim, fit. And that's all you can do. And you got to trim just, you know, sometimes you can get down to some of these areas, you know, especially around the doghouse here. Well, I mean, you're trimming an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch fit, 1/16 of an inch in fit. I installed this entire floor in about 2 hours. And so what I'm going to show you right now, I've got some still pictures of the floor with the seats out and right after I installed it. So we'll go ahead and look at those now. So you can see it lays in pretty flat. Now under the flooring that comes with which is basically just like any padding you would see under any automotive carpeting, which is really where you see those raised areas. You can kind of see where the padding is outlined down through the middle. Of course, it's not around the seats and then up through the middle. And so you can just look at some different views here, and we can see it with the seats out so you get a good look at it. In this particular application, it's much more easier because there's no hump. There's not a lot of things that you would necessarily have that would say if you were putting it in a car or a truck. Like again, it's pretty flat, other than if you can look up and see just where the wheel wells are. So really when you put it in, you've just got to make sure you've got those molded pieces real well on those wheel wells right there. And then you'll notice at the very back, it's designed that way. It just basically runs right behind the front seats. If you were putting this in an actual van, then there's another carpet you could buy that goes through the back parts of the van. Of course, in this case, we don't. So you can see it lays in real nice. Very thick, very nice product, fairly reasonably priced. I picked this up at Rock Auto for about $165 delivered to the house, and it was shipping and everything. So it was fairly reasonable, considering a lot of the alternatives. I was looking at just buying sheet vinyl, laying in like a indoor-outdoor carpet. I mean, there was just a whole lot of options I was trying to sort through. This was probably the most expensive of those options, but definitely the best looking, the least work, and at the end of the day, it's just a better product as far as maintenance and those types of stuff. So here we are back live again. You can see in here, of course, here are the seats and everything. So I'm going to switch around and we'll take a look at some of this actually through the cab doors. Okay, here we are on the passenger side. Of course, again, this is the passenger seat. And let me work the camera a little bit here. Of course, as you can see, like I was saying, here's the Fleetwood floor mats that come in it. And again, I'll flip these back. As you can see, if you can see with that light shining off right there, that is the hump, and that's really the only part in here that you've really got to work with, and then go from there. Now the other thing is, of course, these are the panels. If I get my hand in here, these are the panels, and then there's a panel that goes on here. Very little room to work with right in there. So when you cut this, you think, well, I got this big panel here, or back here, you think, well, I got a lot of room here. You don't. That's maybe a 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8. I mean, it fits pretty tight. So you have to be really careful. You think, well, I can cut a lot up there. You really can't. Of course, then you see here, I'll flip the floor mat back up. Of course, this is all right here. If I can back out, this one big panel. Of course, this panel comes off, and of course you've got a lot of room to work with here. The carpet runs up under here. So you just have to be really careful when installing it. Another thing, of course, I wanted to show you. There's the doghouse, if you can see it, how nice it looks right through here. Of course, this is the add-on piece. Now, thing to note here, for whatever reason, this was considered graphite blue, or graphite gray, but it was blue, bluish, much more blue than this. So you can see it worked out beautifully. I applied the Bulldog adhesive, of course taped it off, and then applied that graphite gray SCM paint, and it all just matches perfectly now. It looks factory. It's like a factory finish. Of course, I'm going to try to come up over in here. It's getting late in the day. The lights are getting... What I'm trying to get to is where we talked about. You can see right here is the stair molding we put in, and of course then you can see this rubber right here. That's where, if you saw in the original one that I was talking about, some of the flooring products and some of the work on the cab, you'll see this right here is nothing more than just a vinyl runner that I bought at Home Depot, and that would allow me, because if you can basically see right there is where the ACC carpet ends, and so I just had to cover that, and I didn't want to do that in a carpet, or I couldn't do it with the flooring. So the transition is quite nice. You can see there, of course, it transitions up there and then transitions on back through there with the flooring. So really nice. The flooring looks great. Turned out beautiful. Now I'm going to look at it from the passenger side, and I want to explain some other stuff that I did on top of the cab. That's the roof of the cab. That's not floor related. So let's have a look through the other door. All right, well, here we are on the passenger door. Of course, it looks much the same. One couple things I want to mention here. I replaced, right here's the emergency start switch. I replaced, of course, these are all micro switches. There's about 6 of them in this RV. I replaced them all because they just wear with age. This one was bad, so I replaced that. Of course, this one already has. This is a temperature gauge for the generator, which is a real nice thing that the original owner put in. One of the other things, if I can get a good picture of it and show you, you can see right here, of course, these are the sun visors. If you can see, if I get my finger there, you can see right in here, of course, this is all the headliner that's put in the RV. And of course, in this type RV, you can, if I can get my finger properly positioned here, right there, let me back up here a little bit, right here, of course, that's the cutout for the RV. And in this particular RV, that's just an aluminum piece that wraps around and then has screws in it, and that's what cleans it up. Now, if you've ever had a problem and you read on the internet, a lot of people complain about these squeaking. And one of the things I read was that when they squeak, one of the things is, of course, there's this is where the cab itself is cut out. Back up here. This is where the cab itself is cut out. Of course, on top of this is the wood deck that goes on out. Of course, you can see here, as you can see, the wood extending out over the cab. And so there's a set of screws that goes all the way around through here that screw the metal part of the cab through a seal into that wood. And I had read where people say, well, that gets those screws get loose and allow some movement of that seal and stuff, and you get squeaking. And when I first got this RV, Lord, I mean, it really squeaked. So I tore all this headliner out, removed it all out. Of course, removed this aluminum piece right here, moved this aluminum piece right here out. And then they had screws about number 8, just standard little self drilling screws, about every 4 inches apart, all the way around through here. I pulled all of those out. I went back in with about a number 10 screw with a rubber grommet washer, and I went every 2 inches. So I went back through here and re-sunk them all the way through here, put one basically in the middle of every other one, and re-tightened them all back down. Of course, then I went back in, laid the headliner all back in, put this aluminum piece all back in, and then cleaned it all back up. And that really, for those out there that don't believe that worked, that really made the difference. I was pleasantly surprised, but extremely surprised how much of just the squeaky noise. Of course, when you're driving, that noise is basically about a foot from your ear, so you're just listening to it all the time. I was really surprised at how well it took care of that. So I was pleasantly surprised by that little tidbit that I learned off the internet. Very simple to do, really just pulling a lot of screws and putting a lot of screws back in. And nothing hard about this headliner. All just pops out. There's a trim piece here, some screws. I mean, it's relatively simple to get out. I did the whole thing probably in a couple of hours, pretty easy. So that worked out really well. So with that, that's about it in the front of it. One thing I did do in the seats, of course, these are, if I can back up, these are flex steel seats. Pretty common in these RVs. Really nice. One thing that they did have a little problem where they were starting to get a little sunk just for the age. So when I had them out, I took these flex steels, flipped them over. Of course, and these flex steels are just a series of springs across the bottom. I tightened all those springs, and then behind those springs I came in with a 2-inch piece of foam and then a backer on top of that before I remounted them down here to the actual platform that mounts them to the floor. And that really made a difference. That really firmed these seats up. They were, you know, you were set in them, they were not uncomfortable, but they were getting a little saggy, and that really made these seats feel like brand new. Like, I mean, they were really, really firm. So that was another thing I did. Very easy to do. Of course, you had the, but it really made those seats a whole lot more comfortable. So that's really what I did in the cab. And of course, the most important thing in it is the flooring, which you see, and then just some other things to try to tighten it up. So that's the completion of the video on the cab, and hope you see you in one of our other videos.